Carolina, you're gonna explain to me how this works.
Okay, don't worry, it's easy. So thank you for being here with us, John and Henriette. So obviously you are the perfect people to tell us about Skid Row, what is daily life like in Skid Row, how it has changed these 35 years, what the challenges that you are facing at the moment.
The first thing about Skid Row is the center of downtown Los Angeles. And in the 70s, before there was a homeless crisis, they knocked down an adjacent area completely and turned it into a corporatized area, which became the skyline of downtown. And they wanted to do that with Skid Row too. Some very smart, young at the time activists intervened, and they saved 50 square blocks of the single-room occupancy hotels in that area and disallowed any market-rate housing. So there's a history of resistance that started in the 70s, and when the homeless crisis showed up in the 80s, and I showed up as a performance artist from New York wanting to do something about it, I fell in with these activists and discovered that this is why the place existed, and it's only through the consistent efforts of people living and working in the neighborhood that it continues to exist, because the history of the last, since then, has been repeated attempts in different ways to displace the neighborhood and create, multi-gazillion dollars worth of real estate out of it. Because now it's completely surrounded by the downtown on one side, the arts district on the other side, which is already an oxymoron because all the artists were kicked out of there years ago and replaced with, multi-gazillion dollar condos and stuff like that. This is an early manifestation of LA Poverty Department, where we set up fabulous talent shows on the streets to recruit people to be part of the group. And you can see in the background, there's some, on the left-hand side, there's some like hotel type buildings. The city created a nonprofit that started buying up the old slum hotels and renovating them and turning them to safe, affordable housing. A lot of housing was created, but then, there was always antagonism to this plan. And so ultimately, the sympathetic development people was kicked out, and everything sort of started grinding to a halt. And in 1999, I think, the city passed an adaptive reuse ordinance, which allowed former commercial buildings to be used as live workspaces, like artist lofts. And but they were actually not occupied by artists. They were very high priced and occupied by people that had that money. And then they started pushing against their neighbors who had been there. And many people were illegally evicted because the landlords of the private hotels realized they could kick out their low-income residents and make a lot more money. That was eventually stopped by lawsuits, again by activists in the neighborhood, and then there became a regime of aggressive policing called the Safer Cities Initiative, and from 2006 to 2015 or 16, something like that, thousands and thousands of people were given tickets. When they didn't pay them, they were put in jail. Thousands of people were arrested for jaywalking. Thousands of people were arrested as drug dealers when they were drug users.
You have a current ongoing exhibition in your space that is called How to House 7,000 People in Skid Row. Already the title says a lot about the fact that these troubles and issues are still going on. So because of the COVID-19, the space is actually closed, but it's possible to see the show online. So I thought about sharing my screen, going onto the web page, and we can have a look at it together.
The whole exhibition is trying to make visible and tangible what that means to house 7,000 people. In response to the community plan that the city made, we made our own community plan with the group Skid Row Now in 2040. One of the things that we said in that plan is that we didn't want any of our people that are currently living in the neighborhood, whether they are living on the street or living in a hotel or in a mission to be displaced. So we want housing for all our people. And if there is going to be new development, then the development should include at least 25% affordable housing. And affordable housing is a difficult kind of notion, because what the city sees as affordable is still very much unaffordable for the people who live in Skid Row. And actually the Department of City of Planning has made a new zone of affordable housing, which is called extreme low income.
Another one of my favorite projects of yours that I wanted to talk about is the Walk the Talk project. It has been going on for a few years now. And initially you wanted to position some street plaques like the Hollywood Walk of Fame to honor the people who lived and worked in Skid Row and who had done transformative actions in the neighbourhood for the community. But the City Council denied the permission to do that, so you had to find an alternative, and you decided to go for parades every 2 years, and these parades are accompanied by performances to tell the stories of the normal people in Skid Row. I think because you have an archival line, I also wanted to share my screen on that, so we can maybe have a look also to some examples.
This is the 2020 parade. So, and then 2018, so it goes down. 2016, 2014, 2012 is when we started. Kevin Michael, for example, you have his bio, then there is a video of the performance with the script of the performance, and there is the video of his interview.
Getting involved in the community, Skid Row has literally saved my life. If I haven't already made it clear, I'm a recovering addict. Being involved, walking out on the streets, and now people are starting to say, hey, Kevin Michael, y'all having a meeting today? Man, I got some dip in my hip, some glide in my stride, some glut in my strut. I'm starting to really feel a part of. And most addicts will tell you, most people, I think, want to be a part of something greater than yourself, a part of the solution rather than the problem.
So pointed out a few very important things like being part of a community and how people grow together and become part of the solution instead of the problem.
Kevin, was an extraordinary person, and as Henriette said, he was. The three of us worked very closely together for years, and he was also, he said he was a recovering addict. He was also a recovering attorney. He was a recovering defense attorney. So he was a lawyer, and he was an extraordinary individual and a huge heart and huge personality.
Asking the people who are most impacted, what makes you feel safe? What makes you feel unsafe? What would you do to have more safety? And then we all come to some agreement because it's community standards. People and people of color in particular are fighters. When you spend all your life trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, right? Nobody better try and take that 15 cents.
Then take my 15 cents away.
Because they're going to catch hell trying to get a hold of my 15 cents.
And that's my story.
And I'm sticking to it.